chair for the speakers. In the summer of 1979, that seems a long time ago now, doesn't it? I found myself and my father stood in the corner of a Cornish field. We stood open-mouthed as we were watching a golfer, looking at each other at golf. But what we saw. The golfer was doing some practice prior to a tournament event. He was smartly dressed in his golfing attire, and time after time he was swinging effortlessly at a golf ball, sending it off into the distance. There's nothing unusual about that for a professional golfer prior to a tournament event. But what had my father and I awestruck was his target. In the distance, about 150 yards away, was another man, his caddy. The towel draped over his hands. As each ball was struck, he stood on the spot and caught it and dropped it nonchalantly into a bag, one after another. As a young boy just starting out on his own lifelong and sometimes tortuous golfing journey, I thought this was absolutely amazing. The golfer was Severiano Ballesteros, and he became my instant hero. He was born into a large family in Pedrina, Spain in 1957. Most of his family were involved in golf in some shape or form. 4 of his brothers were professional golfers, and famously it was his elder brother Manuel who gave the young Severiano a small cut-down 3-iron. With this he cultivated the wondrous and imaginative array of shots, maybe on the beach at Pedrina, but sometimes at night he'd sneak onto the Pedrina course. In his first Caddies tournament, aged just 12, he shot a 79 for 18 holes, which is 9 over par, which is pretty amazing for a 12-year-old. He turned professional in 1974, aged just 17, and burst to prominence 2 years later when he led the Open Championship for the first 3 days, narrowly missing out on victory to the eventual winner, the American Johnny Miller, but tying for second with the legendary Jack Nicklaus. Prior to the arrival of Sevi on the golfing scene, the Americans dominated golf. Jack Nicklaus, Lee Trevino, Tom Watson, Johnny Miller, Hale Irwin, you probably know some of those names. There was no doubting their talent. They were great golfers. They endeared themselves to the British public. They were immaculate in their dress. They had fantastic manners. They were gracious in defeat, gracious in victory, and magnanimous in defeat. But there was something sterile, cynical about their game. It was too perfect. But Sevi was different. The golfing public knew why. He put himself in the same situations that the average golfer on their Saturday 4-ball found themselves in. Behind trees, under trees, stuck in bunkers, in the thick brush. The difference was Sevi could conjure up marvellous shots to get him out of those situations, and the public lapped it up. His swashbuckling style, astonishing vision and sublime skill brought a fresh and radical approach to the game of golf. There was a zing and panache in his shots that transformed his movements from the merely mechanical to the magical. He once said of himself, "I play golf, I see myself as an artist." He certainly was, and the course was his canvas. He won his first Open Championship in 1979, he was 22, and he was the youngest golfer to do that in the 20th century. His playing partner, Hale Irwin, famously, as he walked down the 18th fairway, waved a handkerchief in mock surrender, and he couldn't match the imperious skill of the Spaniard. On the 18th green, you could hear a pin drop. It was hushed. Seve stood over his final putt. Rolled it in. The crowd erupted. Seve stood, a grin on his face, a little jig, and then famously saluted everyone in the gallery. He went on to win the Open title another 2 times, in 84 and 86, the Masters twice, and he led a golden age in European golf. And in his wake, he inspired a raft of young European and British golfers. Sandy Lyle, Ian Woosnam, Sonic Faldo, Bernard Langer, Jose Maria Latibel, to name a few. During his career, he amassed 80 tournament victories, including 5 major championships around the world, and was the driving force behind the Europeans' renaissance in the Ryder Cup. Of his peers, the great American golfer Tom Kite said of him, "When he gets going, it's almost as if Seve is driving a Ferrari and the rest of us are behind in Chevrolets." At age 50, he was beyond his prime, and with an arthritic back hampering that silky smooth swing, he retired. Sadly, he was diagnosed with a brain tumour in 2008, and after battling valiantly, he succumbed and died aged just 54. At his funeral in Padrina, his coffin was borne by the great of good golf. One of them, the usually stoic and emotionless Sonic Faldo, was moved to floods of tears and simply said he was just a boy from his village. I remember that day I was driving home from work and they announced it on Radio 5 Live. The presenter asked for listeners' memories of the great man. I pulled my car over and sent a lengthy text describing what I saw on that magical day in 1979. I'll always remember the young Severiano in his prime, doing something magical that inspired so many. Carrying on my journey home, and a few minutes later, the presenter read out my text, and I smiled again at the memory of that day when I got to see the matador of the fairways. It was such a sad loss, but he will always be remembered by golfers around the world as just a boy from his village, Seve.